no helicopters have been procured for me to go to golf course. Thank you.
I've never said he wasn't a great politician. I'm just saying he's a officer.
It's supposed to be an interview.
How'd you play out there today?
Well, I found the conditions challenging, mostly because there's no grass on the golf course, but there never has been.
I'm thinking about the swag bag, and I had high hopes for the swag bag.
When you got 3 crevices on the green, your course is trash.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome back. Beltway Golfer Podcast, episode 57. Your host, Alex Dixon here. A couple years back, early on in the lifespan of this podcast, I sat down with Buddy Christensen. I believe it was episode 8. He is the owner of golf retailer Golfdom, located in Tyson's Corner. And during that podcast, we talked a lot about the history of the store, the original family that started Golfdom, and just how things were going in the retail space during the pandemic. For this episode, I was joined by longtime general manager at Golfdom, Matt Trenton. And the reason, or one of the reasons I should say, wanted to go back to Golfdom and do another podcast is earlier this year, they were acquired by Worldwide Golf Shops, and wanted to give Matt and the team at Golfdom an opportunity to kind of explain how that may or may not impact the business and what their motivation was. But also I've got an opportunity to talk to Matt a couple times and knew he'd be a great podcast guest. Big golf nut. And we talked about a wide range of topics. He really knows his stuff, certainly from a golf retail point of view, and really enjoyed the conversation. So I'm going to keep the intro short because it was a longer conversation. I think we talked for over an hour and hit on a bunch of topics, but pretty early on, we talk about that acquisition. Other things going on here, I'm going to keep plugging it, but monthly newsletter, shoot me your email on social media or go to beltwaygolfer.com and click on the newsletter, enter your email, going out every single month. The third one will be coming out here in a couple weeks. Where I just post updates on news and goings on around the DMV and in the golf world. Also updates with the merch, real soon coming, a couple events, just links to everything going on kind of with Beltway Golfer, as well as in the world of DC, Maryland, and Virginia golf. So if you haven't, sign up for the Beltway Golfer newsletter. Couple sponsors for the podcast. First is Fore Cocktails. Fore Cocktails. If you didn't see on Instagram, go to forecraftcocktails.com. They can now ship to 42 states around the country. And if you enter Beltway 10 at checkout, you can get a 10% discount on your order. But they're licensed in retail now in Virginia, DC, and South Carolina. But the DC allows them to ship to 42 states. So if you're listening to this, you're outside of one of these 3 states. If you're in Maryland, especially, go to forecraftcocktails.com, F-O-R-E craftcocktails.com, and you can get them delivered right to your door and enter Beltway 10 at checkout. And they've got a few, if you go to their website, you also see they've got a few new flavors beyond just their delicious transfusions that are coming down the pike very soon. Also, sponsors podcast is Timbers at Troy. Timbers at Troy, the only municipal golf course in Howard County. Go to timbersgolf.com. They are just finishing up their new netting out there in their driving range. They've got a great practice facility out there. They've been doing a lot of work to improve drainage and conditions out there. If you haven't been in a while, go to timbersattroy.com. If you live up in Howard County, or if you're near kind of that near BWI, it's only 10 or 15 minutes from BWI, go to their website, check out their players card. They've got some really cool benefits to sign up for the Timbers at Troy players card that include preferred tee times, discount on the merch, discount on tee times, all kinds of stuff. So if you're in Howard County, especially, or if you're looking for a regular stop, check out Timbers at Troy. It's a challenging course, not a walk in the park. It's not the easiest golf course in the world, but a fun one for sure. Timbers at Troy, timbersgolf.com. That's it. Let's get to it. Episode 57 with Matt Trenton, the general manager at Golfdom in Tyson's Corner. Give them a follow at Golfdom Golf on social media. One more note, if you are watching this on YouTube, I botched something on the recording of the video. So I got all the audio. The audio is great, but literally got zero video. I hope you enjoyed the conversation in the audio, but unfortunately, no video. Enjoy.
There's this trend in kind of playing vintage clubs, whether it be, and I'm not even necessarily talking about like hickories, I'm talking about like 90s.
Yeah, I mean 90s clubs are, I think for a large demographic of the active golf community right now, I think 90s clubs are, they're cool, they're nostalgic obviously. I mean, when we say 90s, for many of us it doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but like in the golf equipment world it was eons ago, right? So, and even me at my house, I have a tremendous collection of golf clubs. Maybe it could be a clinical issue. Who knows? But
do you have a garage?
Oh no! I have a half of a basement. I call it the powder keg, and it's 90s, 80s, unique tour products from years and years ago, one-offs, just kind of weird, esoteric.
Oh, wow! It sounds like we should have done the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't have been a bad idea. I could have justified it at home a little bit easier with the family, but. There's something uniquely cool about that, and we're talking about MP29s, MP14s, TP9s, these original TaylorMade Tour Preferreds.
I'm curious sometimes because I've said this. And it's probably come off for listeners of this podcast. Like, I'm not the world's biggest gear guy. I have more clubs than my wife would like me to have. But I don't have quite sounds like the collection that you do. But I'm curious. It seems like there's also like a nostalgia for Prime Tiger, and so those early 2000 clubs are like wildly popular right now, seemingly.
Oh, I mean, if you even look at eBay and things like that, you're going to see those prices of 680s, 681 T-stamps, 681s, tour models from the 80s, which were kind of the predecessors of those 681s the Tiger used so successfully in that period of time. Those prices are creeping up really quickly, and what you used to be able to get for a couple $100 is now going to cost you $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $1,000 easily. Really? And yeah, there's something about it. It's that hard chrome. It's kind of this sadomasochistic golf, right? That we don't like. Nobody really romanticizes it in the modern world anymore, where everything we push now is easier, lower center of gravity, easier to launch, goes a little farther, goes straighter. In the not too distant past, like, these clubs were hard to hit.
Right. High
center of gravity, designed for a very, very small portion of the golfing population. Even then, but now today, nobody's going to hit that club. There's no reason to. But to get back to what you were saying earlier, not so much the hickory world, though. Tad Moore is making some really cool hickories. There's a lot of neat stuff out there in that world too. But that 80s and 90s and early 2000s golf product was really sexy, and it was.
There's probably an element too of, I don't know, showing up to a round with your buddies or a tournament or whatever you're doing, pulling out some of these clubs from a bygone era, and then still beating your partner or still striping it down the fairway.
Yeah,
there's something
to that. Yeah, I mean,
it's almost like another level of showing.
It really is, and even when you're walking down the fairway, they have a different sound when they're clickety-clacking together, right, versus today's stuff. Today's multi-material, multi-face forgings, things like that. They sound different even when you're walking down the fairway.
Right. So I'm curious. So we jumped right into it. Didn't do an intro here. So this is my second episode here at Golfdom, sitting here with Matt Trenton. Matt, what's your title here?
I am general manager of Golfdom and have been so for probably a little more than a decade. and I've done pretty much everything there is to do here at some point or another, and I'm generally in charge of most all of the things, it seems. So
we're going to bounce around. I think to a bunch of topics. I did a podcast. I don't know when it was. Probably 2 years ago, because I think it was one of my first 10 podcasts with the owner,
I think
Buddy
it was 2 years
Christensen.
ago, yeah.
But staying on that topic of kind of the vintage trend and the used clubs, you have your own setup here. I might be getting the name wrong. Golfdom Back 9?
Exactly. Yeah, we've got a great memory.
I've bought a couple clubs. I think through your eBay store. Mm-hmm. How has that evolved to this conversation that we're talking about? There's a couple different questions related to that. Not just this kind of vintage boom that's going on within golf clubs and golf gear, but also, and I think I talked to Buddy about this a couple years ago, but with all like the golf club supply issues, with supply chain issues, or I'm sure you have seen, but looking at numbers and stuff, are there a lot of people that are like, listen, I need a brand new set of clubs if I don't want to wait 6 to 8 months for, if there's, I don't know how long it's taking anymore.
Well, I mean, it's improved, right? Okay. But I mean, if we look back 2 years ago, we wouldn't think that we'd still be in this situation where we're still waiting a long time for custom sets or even stock sets that are just kind of stuck at ports. The good news is that it's improving,
right?
Especially at the stock side of things. Certain manufacturers have been very good at getting the custom orders in a timely manner, but others are still facing delays. And I don't know that that's going to change significantly for like the next 12 months or so, just based on some conversations we've had with different manufacturers around the country. But it does lend itself well to the used product and to, I think, the exploration of some of that stuff that's hanging around. We do a lot of trade-in events to bring people in and frankly to just get some more good used product. And
right.
when we do these trade-in bonuses and things like that, it has a tendency to bring in better quality trades, which is awesome. That's what we're looking for. Wedges and putters and women's sets, which are things that we don't necessarily see a lot of. Those trade-in events start to bring more of that.
Are you selling? I've browsed your the Back 9. It's almost exclusively on eBay that you're selling this?
No, I mean, we sell on eBay. We use another format called Sideline Swap.
Okay.
We are trying to do more in-house because the demand has been there. We have folks all the time who are buying on eBay and say, hey, wait, can I just pick it up at your store here? And yeah, of course. So then they come
I think
in.
I did buy a putter. This was a year ago. I knew it was back. Like, you wouldn't even notice it if you're here in the store. Mm-hmm. And I just kind of wandered back there and asked him if he got any good putters for under $100, and he pulled out one that was really nice.
Yeah, and we're starting to see more of that. And a perfect example is people are coming in with their kind of 12, 13, 14 age children and don't want to go into a full set because a full rig's fairly expensive. They don't want to do a package set because the kids past that. They're beyond the U.S. kids' height ranges. So what we've been doing there is kind of filtering them toward used product, because you can get a great iron set, great driver, great wedges and everything, and you're going to be well under the $1,000 budget or $500 budget, depending on what we have at the time. I mean, there's some really good stuff back there, and things I would do for my family, no question. I mean, we can do the alterations here, which we often do, take an inch off, regrip them, and it's a quality set of clubs.
How long ago did you start the Back 9?
Back 9, we were set to open in March of 2020, like literally I think the Tour Championship or something like that. It must have been the Players. Okay. And COVID hit, and that kind of, that threw some sand in the gears. So I don't know that it was ever officially launched the way we wanted it to be.
Right. In those 2 years, have you seen it grow?
It's grown tremendously.
Wow.
And fairly organic, truthfully. We've seen people just kind of wander in on the weekends looking for used clubs. We don't have a great used presence on the floor.
Do you see that ever changing?
Well, we did it years ago.
Oh, you did.
And as the store kind of grew, and as some of the accessories and some of the other hitting rooms that we've got several fitting bays, we needed that space. So we ended up having to move those clubs because there wasn't as much interest years ago in used product in store. Yep. So we would filter through eBay, and that was a good way to kind of get it moving. But now the community has kind of asked for more of it, and I think we're doing a good job of providing. Our signage could certainly improve, and there are some plans, and I've got some proofs I'm working on today for that. But the plan is to have a healthy, used, pre-owned, a 90-day, trade-in type of thing, and closeout products, some things that are purchased that were, prior generations that we'll put back there for more of a value play.
Right.
The plan is to have that all the time and to really embrace that section of the community who's looking for it. And we all know it's great to find a good deal. We all know that sometimes you're just looking for a club, to kind of go back on the nostalgia play that you remember hitting well 20 years ago.
Right.
You see it in a bin, you're like, wow, Cleveland 485. I had a great, sand shot at Churchville on the 3rd. I got to have that. It's $12. I'll buy it. And that's the hope, is to kind of cover all those bases, but I think give everybody an opportunity to find something that they're looking for.
Sure. Very cool. I'm into it, and it's only partly because I'm a cheap bastard.
Yeah.
But new sets are expensive. I probably don't recharge my bag with a brand new set as often as I should, and it probably impacts my game. So I'm a big fan of the vintage or used market myself. So a bunch of things we want to hit on here, but one of the reasons that we decided to do this podcast and kind of the timing of it was there was some news about Golfdom store not too long ago. Why don't you tell us about what that was?
Yeah, I think, and it's not necessarily out there for everybody to see so far. We've been trying to get this message out, and in May of this year, we merged or were acquired by Worldwide Golf, Worldwide Golf Shops actually, and they are it's a large group. They have 84 stores, and stores you'd know: Edwin Watts, You Went to Golf, Roger Dunn, the Golf Mart, Las Vegas Golf Shop, I believe.
They have their own Worldwide Golf Shop. Is that a brand in itself?
Worldwide Golf Shops, there are no stores that are actually named Worldwide Golf.
Okay.
So they own Budget Golf. They also own Mike's Golf Outlet. They own that kind of New England crew of Golfer's Warehouse. Not the Golf Warehouse, but Golfer's Warehouse. And
there's a lot of names in this industry that are so close sometimes.
Yeah, and I screw them up, so I probably made a mistake in there somewhere. But they have like 9 brands, right. And we've known these folks for a long time. Buddy, whom we spoke with earlier, he's been very good friends with the CEO of that company for a long time, and then the owners, the group that purchased Worldwide Golf, purchased it during the COVID years, and they are local to this area.
Really?
So there was a connection here.
Is that public information? Who that group is?
It's a family outside of Bethesda.
Okay.
And they are. It's a great family. I've known some of them for many years. I just didn't know what their background was. But they're.
Oh, so it's a family that just owns Worldwide Golf. It's not like a larger company.
No, it's not a larger company. It's a family and an investment. It's a private equity group type of deal, and they are. They've been great. This is, we're obviously very early into it, but it's been a really good transition. And I think it's different for us, right? Because, we fought as an independent for so long, 40 years. And I was a little concerned at first, as I think everybody here was. We ran things in a very particular manner because we were always trying to protect all sides of the house. And when this opportunity became available and Buddy kind of asked several of us our thoughts and kind of how it might impact us and things to that effect, knowing the guys who were running it was very comforting. And I had some friends very good friends of mine who knew the family that was involved ultimately, and they were like, hey, it's a great family. This is a good group for you guys. These folks they're exactly the type of folks that I would sell my company to. I was like, okay, well, if that's the case, then it makes me feel comfortable. And it's been a great transition. Buddy and I were just out in California visiting their home office in Santa Ana. Roger Dunn Santa Ana is one of the largest golf stores I've ever been in. It was a really unique opportunity to kind of see the way they do business in comparison to what we do, and we visited a couple other stores, and it was a great experience, and I'm excited.
Golfdom being like truly independent and owned here with a single store by for a long time the Chang family and then Buddy. It's not I imagine it's certainly not a decision you take lightly for any business.
No,
to make the decision.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what now that it happened, what kind of when the average person, you think about any business getting acquired or merging or selling, it's usually about additional capital. But what is why don't you talk through the reasons why and the benefits of now that
well, I think what it gives us the opportunity to do is strengthen our brand within the Mid-Atlantic, be part of something that I think is a really powerful piece of the golf engine in this country, and I think do what we do, but do it at a higher level, do it better. And the great part about this ownership group and these folks in general is that they haven't asked us to change anything. They're not saying, hey guys at Golfdom, you were good at X, Y, and Z, but A and B, we didn't really like the way you're doing that. That's an X, and we're going to move out of that. They said, no, run your business the same way you always have. If you need things, if you need product, if you need staff, or you need anything, lean on us. Get to us. If you need help advertising, if you need help with your marketing in additional markets, you need help on your web presence. That's what we're here for. Yeah. But for your day-to-day operations, go out there and do it the same way you always have, and treat your customers the same way that you always have, and hope to do, and make the DC marketplace the wonderful place that it always has been. And that's the neat part for us, is that there was some concern, I think rightfully so, that, hey, we've got big bad corporates going to come in here and they're going to make us change things. Everybody's going to have to do this. Everyone's going to have to walk in the left door and walk out the right. And it hasn't been that at all. And I think that's the part that's really exciting for us, because some of the everyday things that we did in the past are parts that we won't need to do anymore. Basic buying, things like that, won't be in my hands anymore, or Buddy's hands, or things like that, which is really good. When you say basic buying, you mean so there's somebody at a different office now. When you say we're getting low on X, exactly,
they can kind of do
they're
that.
They're going to help fill some of that in from the back end, and whereas we always did it previously just in house, which was laborious. Right. And so having some of these things done on a larger scale is really helpful. And if we need something,
does it give you the flexibility? Sorry to cut you off, but with any small business, especially a retailer, where you've got I'm looking around at the store, you just got a ton of inventory, and balancing that purchasing of inventory versus cash flow versus, having a backing like that, I would imagine would ease that a bit.
It's very nice. I'll put it that way. It's nice to know that if we make a mistake on some of the more on the smaller end buys or things like that, or a closeout buy, if we make a mistake, we can move it to a different location, and that's the neat part. Their locations range from 3,000 square foot operations up to 100,000 square foot operations, actually maybe larger than that. So it's a large range of retail operations. So and with that comes.
Can you give me what's a hypothetical of that?
Okay, for instance, I make a mistake and say, I want 100 of these bags, thinking that they're just going to just kill.
Right.
And I bring them in, and they just don't move. Now I've got the opportunity to say, hey, is anybody interested in 10 of these? We just overbought.
And a Roger Dunn store in Kentucky might say, you know what, that's actually pretty popular in our region.
Yeah, exactly. And that's attractive, because I think it's going to give us, in certain aspects of our business, maybe the more niche products, I think it's going to give us the opportunity to take a few more risks. And if it doesn't work out, I'm not going to sit here and be all upset at night. I can say, well, it was a little bit of a stretch for us, but I bet you they'll kill it in Florida. Let's see if they're interested.
That's interesting.
So it's attractive.
Yeah. Right. I can totally see that. I'm just curious. What about does worldwide golf shops and just having being a part of this larger organization. What about like from a digital or online? I mean, buying online is so huge these days, only getting bigger.
Yes, and we're going to be part of that in a stronger degree going forward. And that's one of the things that's going to be very helpful, I believe, in this transition. And just with this ownership group is that they're not afraid to kind of roll up their sleeves and make some of these things happen. Whereas as a small independent, it was a tougher choice for us. And in the capital was just not always going to be there. Yeah. And as you can tell, the store, it's a fairly large store, and getting it to the point where we are right now takes a lot of work, takes a lot of hands. I mean, I have a wonderful team who are capable of tremendous variety of tasks, and we're truly very.
How big is your staff these days?
We get about 20 folks altogether, a couple part-timers here and there, but highly capable crew overall, which is really awesome.
Another thing that seemingly happened, we talk about this in every one of these podcasts, one of these conversations. These last 2 to 3 years during the COVID, it's just been there's so many different things that have been going on in the golf world that there's the whole industry just did a total 180 from what it was doing right before golf or before the pandemic. In the last 2 years, you've seen a lot of competition in retail, where 3 years ago, golf retail seemed to be dying. Or at least that was the message that was being put out there.
Big bad retail dies. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And now I just got a flyer in the mail yesterday about another PGA Tour Superstore opening up in Rockville, I think. And so there's a couple of those. There's PXG moved into town. There's more small independent shops have opened up. There's one right down the street, I think Tyson's West. Golf. I might be getting the name of that wrong. But they're popping up a lot. How do you view the competition? How do you? Well,
I think it's always healthy to have competition. And we have some really good competitors around us, and I think what does that do? That's gonna raise the level of interest. It's gonna raise the level of service. It's gonna raise the level of demand, and there's room for all of us. And I think that there's enough variety in those different operations that are kind of in the area, so to speak, that we can all coexist. I mean, do I want to do better than everybody? Yeah, of course. Sure. But I recognize that if we're not being pushed by other entities, we're not going to improve. And I think I tell my staff all the time, I'm like, the competition doesn't concern me. What concerns me is if we're not doing a better job today than we did yesterday, and we have to do better. And it's pretty broad, right? But every day is an opportunity for us to learn from a mistake. It's an opportunity for us to learn from a success. All these things are out there, and we just have to identify where those pieces are and do our best to solve them.
One of the things I've seen and what's made me a loyal shopper here at Golfdom is you've got an incredible selection with your actual golf equipment. A tremendous inventory, state-of-the-art everything. You got 3 different fitting and hitting bays. But one of the things I find interesting is over on a lot of the apparel and kind of the other stuff, the accessories. Golfdom has always seemed to be kind of on the forefront of kind of emerging brands. Yeah, where if you go to a PGA Tour Superstore, you're not going to see probably 60 to 70% of the brands that you've got over in your apparel section.
Yeah, that's the fun part. The golf equipment part of things, and you can kind of find those products everywhere. There's not as much variety. Any golf shop worth their salt is going to do their best to carry the major manufacturers and a couple of maybe some more niche products or maybe an esoteric piece here and there. But anybody worth their salt is going to do that. Where I think we've always kind of gone in a different direction was the apparel and the accessory side of things. And the reality is I love apparel, I love accessories. We're golf guys, we like gear. And that stuff is fun. It's really neat. And to find those products is maybe the most fun of all. I mean, I'm looking at a couple of different products right now, and I use Instagram. You mentioned Instagram. Instagram is a big friend of mine. Right. I love it, and that's where I find a lot of neat new products.
It's so easy to find. So it's almost overwhelming. There's so many emerging brands, especially in the golf space.
Yeah, and in the last 2 years, you're starting to see more and more of those pop up.
Just it's so easy.
Easy to bring it to market. You've got these great web platforms. E-com at the small scale is very simple, and if you're doing the fulfillment out of your house, you've got something there. I'm looking at a couple of apparel lines right now and a couple of accessories.
Is that part of your role specifically here at Golfdom, or you and Buddy do that together to try to find?
Well, we have several buyers. I'm kind of a pseudo buyer. I kind of consult on everything. Beth Kaufman's our apparel buyer. She does a wonderful job. She does a great job finding neat brands. Buddy does the majority of our hard goods buying. Randy Ramsey, whom you met earlier, does the lion's share of our accessories buying, and then I kind of look over and try to find the neat, cool things, the neat kind of counterculture products, things that I think might sell well for us. I mean, what I buy here is the small stuff. It's it's like little leather-bound books. It's weird head covers, maybe a ladies' pant line or an odd belt, or there's a few things I'm looking at right now that
there's that's the stuff that there's so many, especially when you look at the social media world and you look at the younger generation. It's like all those little things are what I think it feels like the younger generation of golfers loves to try to stand out and look different than maybe my generation or a generation older than me that had this reputation that golf fashion was terrible. We all wore the same stuff all the time. So to have these little pieces of accessories or a head cover that's didn't come right off the rack from Titleist or TaylorMade or whomever is a big deal. Yeah, it's that individuality that I think the sport lost. Everything was so uniform for a while. It was pleated khakis and an oversized golf shirt, cotton. Nowadays we're just seeing some really neat products that are maybe still a nod to some of that tradition, but have moved. I mean, we look at things like, there's a couple different brands out there that I think are doing some really cool stuff. Cabby is one. I'm not sure if you're familiar. Yeah, sure. Yeah, he's got Chicago, I think. He's actually out of New York, I think now. Oh, okay. He's got some really neat kind of counterculture golf apparel. He's got some hats. He's got some neat graphics work. There's Seamus Golf is one that we got into very, very early. Those guys are out of Oregon. Yep, I've got a Seamus head cover on my back. Yeah, and they've kind of, in my mind, really revolutionized that. Do you carry Seamus here? We do on occasion. Recently, I haven't done too much during the pandemic. It's just been hard to get product. I know they were hurting for a little while. Right. But early on, Seamus was big. They turned their whole operation in creating sanitizer or something. I remember seeing a big story about that. They did sanitizer and they did face masks. Face masks, right. Yeah, and they did a great job. They moved everything they moved everything into that type of market and did a wonderful job. And they're great folks. It's a family company there. We did some stuff with Smathers and Branson, which is a local company, as I'm sure you know. Make a great product, and we even went so far as to go with a different logo to kind of try something new there. There's another company called Golfitecture, which is a really neat one, which I haven't done anything with here in the store yet. I didn't know that. Yeah, these are all kind of these kind of out there Instagram golf brands, but there's some neat stuff. What is that decision process? Going back to the point that there's so many. I mean, it's kind of and it seems like there's 10 new ones every week or every day. There are, and how do you make that? How is the decision process? Say, hey, this is one that I think will move. Well, generally as a buyer, the key is not to buy things that you want. Don't just buy things that you think you'd buy, and I think that holds true for the bulk of the buying that we do here. But when it starts to come down to the different brands, I think you do have to buy what you'd want. I love head covers, so I look for neat head covers. Winston makes a really neat head cover. They're in the majority of the shops that you see. I know you did some stuff with National Links Trust. Yep. They did some stuff there, and I try to buy things that I think are neat, and some of them don't work, admittedly. But Mackenzie golf bags. I love Mackenzie bags. I have a good relationship with the folks there, and
whenever I'm designing one, I just make it how I'd want to buy one. And
Maybe that's a good example. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't have Mackenzie golf bags in the store, do you?
we've got 2 or 3 now.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, they almost look like display pieces or just some merchandising materials is kind of the idea. I mean, our store is
because where I was going was like there's some of the stuff. It's like almost such a specific buyer for some of it.
Yeah,
that for a large retailer,
it's tough.
It's how do I gauge whether or not this will actually be sold?
Yeah, it's tough, and I like I said, I don't always do a great job there. It's the hope that somebody's going to find it and see it, and if they don't buy that one, that they're going to say, hey, I didn't realize you guys have this. Can I order one for myself that's more personalized? And for most things, it's really just it's a conversation starter, and that's what I like to look at it for specifically.
Is with that whole conversation, just even pre-pandemic of where brick and mortar and retail is going, is the demographic of Golfdom? Is it, are 20-somethings in here a lot buying, or is it still kind of an older?
We're starting to see more. I would love to see more young people here, and I think that as more people get into the game and have an increased interest in the accessories side and the apparel side, I think we'll start to see even more people of different backgrounds and interest levels, because we see it on the weekends a lot where we'll have a young couple in here and the guy's looking at a driver and his wife or girlfriend's looking around. In the past, they would just stay out in the parking lot or whatever and just leave or go to the Container Store or go to the mall, go somewhere else but the golf store. Now they're hanging around and they're buying some products and at least or saying, hey, I like what you guys have here. I don't play golf, but I see you've got Lululemon. That's really cool. I bought a few pieces. I didn't realize you carried it. And that's fun.
Is that all part? I would imagine that's all part of. We talked about this casually, not today, but another time we were having a conversation about how, especially for relatively new golfers or occasional golfers, buying a new set of clubs or even buying a single club or walking into a high-end professional golf store can be an intimidating experience.
No question.
Because there's a language. You can I've been a golfer. I host a podcast. I'm an obsessive golfer, and there's still so much I don't know about golf gear. It's crazy.
Yeah,
and it can be intimidating for me walking in and being afraid I'm going to sound like an idiot because I don't know how the shaft moves or something.
I get it completely. It's intimidating. It's overwhelming. We have people here who are looking to help, but at the same time, you're just trying to blend in. And this game's hard. And what we're asking you to do often is to come in front of a bunch of people who really aren't paying attention to you, but to walk in front of folks and hit golf balls, and the rest of the store can see you. That's pretty intimidating. I can't think of many other sporting.
Has there ever been a conversation about curtains?
We've talked about curtains. We had people who I was doing fittings in here, and guy's a brain surgeon. He's like, hey, I don't mean to be weird, but I'm starting to feel like I'm in a fishbowl. And he's like, I do surgeries in front of people, and I can handle that, but this is setting me off. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't really think much about it.
It's kind of like you're on the first tee and there's a bunch of people waiting.
It's the first tee.
But you're hitting 20 drives.
Yeah, you're hitting 20 drives. It's the first tee. People are terrified of the first tee anyway. It's first tee jitters for an hour. And yes, it's intimidating.
How do you help people get past?
I think we try to create a connection with folks and ask them questions. I give our staff a lot of credit. They try the interview process very effectively. They move through folks and explain to them, hey, what are you looking for? Okay, you got a gap between your pitching wedge and your sand wedge. Understand, what do you have? What clubs are in your bag? And we try to create that dialogue to kind of get a relationship so we can take some of the intimidation factor out. And that's not to say that we're completely successful. I think it's a difficult game. We expose, golfers are constantly exposed to failure. That's what we're trying to diminish, but it just doesn't always happen that way. And I think there's just got to be a mutual understanding that this might make you uncomfortable for a few minutes, but we're going to try to help you out the best we can. Sure. And there's the neat part about it is that there are so many great products out there to accomplish those tasks. We have state-of-the-art technology, certainly, but we have a product from every manufacturer that's going to kind of fill that void. So you can't really make a bad decision, which is, I think, very comforting. And then, we're going to help you on the back end. If something doesn't work out, we're here to help. That's not an issue for us. It wasn't an issue for us as Golfdom, and it's not an issue for us as Golfdom as part of Worldwide Golf.
Has the whole fitting experience, is that, you said you've been here 10
I've
plus
been
years.
14 years.
14 years.
Yeah.
Fitting wasn't nearly as big a thing 10, 14 years ago. Correct me if I'm
Not
wrong.
to the effect that it is today.
now
no.
it's almost like standard practice. If you're going to buy a set of irons, you're getting fit. It's almost. You tell me. Do you sell a lot of sets of irons off the rack without anybody getting fitted, or is that less and less?
It decreases every year. And I think that's, golf publications have really hammered that message home. Retailers have hammered that message home. All your pros on Instagram, everybody's talking about it all the time. Get fit, get fit, get fit. And I think it does help to reduce the number of mistakes that people can make in that buying process. And when we say get fit, that can mean a lot of different things, right? It can mean, hey, we're going to do top to bottom, we're going to take all sorts of measurements. It's going to be an hour-long process, and we're going to hit 1 million golf balls, and we're going to do all these things. We're going to look at spin rate and side axis and smash factor and all of these types of things, descent angle. Or it can mean, hey, you're 6'5", you've got a wrist to floor that actually comes out to standard. We don't need to be at 1.5 inches long. You've got very long arms for your height. Let's not make the mistake of going with added length that you don't need. That actually makes the game harder. Or it could be grip size. It's simple things. So I think I
saw some clip online yesterday where there was just some, I don't know what it was, an interviewer was talking to Tony Finau, who's a big dude.
Long
hits
arms.
the ball 1 million miles. His driver is a half inch short because he's got such long arms.
Yeah, and that's a forgotten part in that fitting process. And I think it has a lot of validity. I don't think that people give it the credence that it deserves, because it doesn't sound very high tech. Hey, we're just going to measure you height and wrist to floor and hand size. Well, that's not very scientific. Well, it is, and it's going to help you anyway. It's part of any good fitting. But some folks, they've already done a bunch of demo days. They've tried their friends' clubs. They know what they want. They know the model. Hey, I want Callaway Apexes. Okay, great. Let's get you some Callaway Apexes. Yeah, I'm a little worried that I don't have the right length and line. Well, it's a quick deal. We can work through that pretty quickly. We can order it. We can also build it here. We order several sets here that are 2 inches long, and then we cut them to the proper length for the consumer, so we can get people moving and make it so they don't have to wait, which was more of a COVID protocol thing.
Sure. So are a lot of those? I'm just kind of curious about when you get someone fit, and we're talking the supply chain and having custom. There's so many different options. There's so many different shafts. You've got all these different grips. You've got all these different lie angles, different clubs. Cut it short, make it long. Are there scenarios where people come in, they get fit, it's not off the rack, but it is in stock, or is pretty much everything you got a custom order?
We have ordered a lot of.
Or do they build them off the rack in different?
No, not really. I mean, we typically order standard for the store for what you see on the rack.
Right.
But we will, in backstock, carry some custom sets that we can cut in-house to whatever length we need, and we can bend it. We have a full-service building and repair shop. I've got phenomenal staff over there, and Nick Fusco he's our club builder, repair, and a master fitter. He's just fantastic employee. John Pack, same thing. Just these are guys who can do it all, which is wonderful. And it's neat when you've got a fitter who's the guy who's been in here with you, fitting you and getting you all sorted out, and then he's the guy who also is building the clubs for you. It's pretty cool. There's no skip of anything there.
It's all happening here.
Yeah.
So 14 years you've been here. I'm sure Buddy answered this in my last podcast with him, but what year did this open?
They opened this store in 97, 97, 98.
Okay.
Prior to that, they were on Tyco in Spring Hill there.
Got it. In the 14 years you've been here, there's so many changes in golf, but what are some of the biggest changes in 14 years from a retailer's perspective? Whether it be hard goods or apparel,
Well, I mean, there's movable weight technology and things like that was out there just prior to when I started. The mixed materials of drivers has really changed things. It allows them to move weight into different portions of the golf club that just wasn't possible prior, especially in a full titanium product or a traditional titanium product. Excuse me. This more casual golf attire, I think, is a big change, and I think very welcomed. It's neat to be able to wear the same stuff to the office that you can play on the golf course.
That's a huge change.
It's tremendous.
I think a lot of golfers, I know I'm guilty of this, it's like my golf wardrobe is my wardrobe.
Yeah, and we like that. That's good for us. We've worked hard at making this golf lifestyle and just this, hey, I can wear this to the golf course, I can wear it grocery shopping, I can do anything in it, I can travel. Like, that's huge, because now you're not buying things for one specific event.
Yeah.
And consumers have embraced that. They understand that, yeah, these pants aren't cheap, but I can wear them in everything I do, and that's attractive to me. This golf leisure product that we're seeing more of, where it's stretchier fabrics, maybe a little more form-fitting or more tapered legs, shorter sleeves, multi-use products. That's huge. 15 years ago, that wasn't out there. It's like, hey, here's your big shirt, and
I think I'm still too old for that trend, but I get it. I see it everywhere.
It's everywhere, and soft spike. Like, nobody wears spike shoes.
Right.
We don't see. I mean, we still sell spiked golf shoes, soft spikes, but the turf shoe is tremendous. It's 75% of our business, 80% of our business is in shoes with no spike whatsoever, and
I would imagine also a lot in even just in 14 years. As especially when we're talking on the apparel side, shoes, apparel, everything, as the quality of what you're wearing has gone up, whether it be shoes or a shirt or a pant, the spend goes up. I mean, a lot of clothes are expensive, in part because they're really well made and they're well designed.
Yeah, you can run up a pretty high bill in a hurry, but knowing that you can use it for a variety of things makes it it eases the burden, I suppose. I'm guilty of that myself. I mean, I'm a pretty big consumer here, so you have to understand that you're going to use it in other aspects of your life. I mean, we sell underwear.
Right.
And 14 years ago, we never would have sold underwear.
Right.
If you brought underwear and said, hey, I want you to carry this 2-under underwear or municipal, and I'd say, okay, that's great. This is a golf store.
Right.
And now we sell a lot of underwear. We sell a lot of socks.
And the reality is, I don't own any 2-under underwear myself, but I imagine the people that do, they're probably not saving that underwear for their round of golf.
No, it's everyday stuff.
It's just underwear in their drawer.
Yeah, it's just, hey, Golfdom had it. It made sense. I was there.
Right.
And we sell T-shirts and joggers,
hoodies.
And hoodies. I mean, hoodies. That's a big business, right? I mean, you never would have seen a hoodie in a golf shop 14 years ago.
Where do you see, so now fast forward, maybe not 14 years, but even like 5 or 10 years, so it's almost like it's two different questions. One, like this line of conversation, like the apparel, maybe even the hard goods as well, like what kind of trends, obviously probably continuing a lot of that casual trend, but I'm also just, the larger question is kind of the based on what you're seeing, whether it be over the last 3 years or just in general, where are you seeing golf retail head in the next 5-10 years?
That's a good question. I think from an apparel side, you're going to see more streetwear make its way into the mainstream golf retail space. I also think that, and this is just me guessing, we're going to start to see a more tailored, higher quality golf specific product in the future. I think there will be a shift toward the golf attire again. I just think it's going to be a more polished, more professional, really clean look, where it's clear that it's your golf attire, but it's high performance and it's well made and very well tailored. I think that is going to come back. I think we're going to start to see more of that golf uniform make its way, but I think it's going to have its roots in more of a street styling. I think it's just going to be a little bit more fashion forward. I don't think it'll be that stodgy kind of past that we all know.
Right.
But I do think that that's a direction. I think ladies' golf apparel is going to change tremendously. I think that we're going to start to see a better quality for the lady golfer, which is absolutely needed.
Yeah.
Ladies' apparel has been horrific for many years in the golf community. And
Are you starting to see that change? I mean,
we're starting to see a change, and it's consumer driven, right? and we've seen this during the COVID times. The number of women who have created apparel lines during these last couple of years is tremendous.
Yeah.
And they're making things that are really, really cool and functional. Yeah. And this shrink it and pink it mentality, which was always out there in the golf space, is going to be diminished by really strong designers in this female golf apparel side, which I think is going to be incredible. You're going to start to see some ladies apparel that still runs in the same way that we're looking at men's apparel, where it's more lifestyle driven. You can wear it anywhere, which is neat.
Do you get, and this is kind of a question tagged on to an earlier part of our conversation, but like when you're talking about these startup brands, as a part of the team of buyers here at Golfdom, do you get a lot of like independent startup brands like reaching out to you directly, like, hey, we'd love to send you some product, or we'd love to try to figure out how to carry your product?
No, not so much. It's been it's usually driven on our side. We'll see something. We'll talk to some folks who are in our business, and now we start talking with the folks at Worldwide, which has been really cool because they're all over the country. So they're seeing some different trends, and they've got different people and things like that. So, and we were just having those conversations last week, which has been, that's one of the reasons why this is a good thing for us, is that it just opens us up to these opportunities that it may have taken me 3 times as long to get there. But generally these brands are not reaching out to us. We'll have to find them, and I spend an inordinate amount of time on Instagram trying to find things. And I have probably 8 different Instagram accounts, just hoping that for different algorithms that get to try to get me to different places to see what happens.
So you're just clicking on different things based on what you're logged in as?
Yeah.
That's funny.
So I don't know if it actually does anything. I don't know if I've outsmarted it or not. Probably not. But I think these brands, they don't know how to scale up, and some of them don't necessarily want to be at golf retail. They want to sell direct, and that's fine. But we've been successful with those types of brands in the past, and I think we can continue to be so. I mean, green grass only used to be a really tough mantra for us, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with the term, but many of these brands, these higher end brands, wouldn't sell to golf retailers.
Right.
They'd say, no, you're a big
You're just
box
selling
store.
the actual golf course or golf club.
Yeah, we're going to go golf course only, and that was always a really difficult thing for us to hear, and I think we've navigated it effectively. But by saying, hey, we're not a traditional golf store or whatever, come on and take a look. This is what our store looks like. This is how we operate. And
that never occurred to me at all, that would even be a thing. Are there still companies that do that?
Yeah, it's still fairly prevalent. Generally at the higher end type of thing. Mm-hmm. And we've always just said, hey, give us a shot, and we'll give us an opportunity to prove you wrong. We'll do it.
What is there? Why is that a benefit for them to be so exclusive just to the golf course? Like, what's a negative in being in a retail?
Well, I think golf,
it diminishes their brand. Or
yes, golf retail, and it takes many different avenues, right? Mm-hmm. There's some that are discount outlets. Golf retail is not necessarily what we operate here. This happens to be a particular version of golf retail, but many golf retailers are more discount based or closeout based, or quick to put things on sale. And I think that's part of it, is we don't want to have our brand diminished by being quickly put on sale or not being merchandised effectively. One of the things we take a particular amount of pride in is our ability to merchandise here. And we want it to look like a great pro shop every time you walk in. Not all golf stores are that way. Not all golf stores operate in, by putting the consumer experience first. It's more about giving you as much product. And I think that's a mistake that many of us make is golfers come here just for the product. So give them as much product as they can have. So every time every square inch of the store is stuffed with product. Well, that's not a great experience.
Yeah.
So
talking again about the kind of the future of the industry, what are some of the conversations that you and Buddy and the team have here? When you look at online buying and e-commerce, I don't know the numbers. I don't follow the industry, but it's certainly not slowing down.
No, by no means. It's
so.
the future.
So my question to that is, when you talk about do you think this store or operation will look much different 10, 15 years from now because of the continuing trend of e-commerce?
I don't think that it will. I think that in certain segments, it's certainly. But I think that the overall bones of what we do will still be here. The tangibility factor is important in our business. The satiating of an impulse is very important in our business. If you just played golf and you bogeyed 18, you don't want to wait 2 days. 2 days doesn't seem like a lot, but in your golf mind, it seems like forever.
Sure.
In 2 days, you're back at work, and you're not going to use it until the following weekend. But if you slam your trunk and you're here in 10 minutes, and now we can satiate that impulse because we have it here, I think that still holds water. And I hope.
And there's a lot of that. I'm guilty. I'm a big impulse buyer. I bought a Gap wedge the other day because I lost my Gap wedge and I had it around the next day. Wasn't going to buy that online.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of money in here around Christmas because I was behind the 8 ball on Christmas and ended up buying multiple. God, I'm forgetting the brand, but it's like the auto massager.
Oh, Theragun.
Oh, bought 2 Theraguns for family members because I was a terrible planner on my Christmas.
Well, it's good
shopping.
to be a good gift giver, right? I think that the satiating of impulse is important, and I don't see that going away. That's human nature. So, but from a retail perspective online, I would expect us to expand. I would expect us to do better. I know that we can, and bringing this store and the feel and the culture of this store to folks nationwide is very attractive to me. And if e-com is the way to do that, I'm all for it. I think that we curate.
Are there ways to connect? Are there ways to connect? You're talking about national, but even the local golfer. To I don't even know where I'm going with this, but I'm at home. There's something that can be done or researched online to facilitate or expedite what I'm going to do when I come into the store.
Well, this is on a small scale what you're talking about. I think we've even started doing these things where we on our current website there's a club repair form, and it helps to expedite this process. And it's a simple form you fill out. You say, hey, I've got 14 clubs. I want to have these grips. I'd like to drop them off this day. I'd like to pick them up here. And you submit that form. We gather all the stuff. We get in touch with you. Say, yeah, bring them on Tuesday. We'll have them for you finished on Wednesday afternoon. And literally, that guy all he has to do is just bring his clubs in, give us his name, and we're done. Yeah, so it facilitates it a little bit. I mean, it's not a true answer to your question, but we are trying to bring this kind of curated golf lifestyle to nationwide if we can. And is it building a bunch of Golfdoms? I don't think it's building a bunch of Golfdoms. I think it's building a great web platform that enables us to do that. I mean, our buyers are proud of what they've done, and that will continue. Worldwide does a great job of getting us the meat and potatoes of what we need.
Yeah.
But the other stuff, the part that really is the true essence, I think, of what has brought people here for so many years, that's still going to be done in-house. And I'm excited about that because I think our consumers they're ravenous. They want neat things that make them individuals.
You've got the VIG program, very important golfer. That's unimpacted by the sale or by the.
Yes, nothing's changed there. We're going to continue to operate in the way we have. And that's been a great product. I mean, there may be some tweaks here and there, but they like that program. They like what we've done with it.
It's essentially a frequent buyer program.
Yeah, and it's great, and it's a great way for us to communicate with our consumers. We do a variety of marketing around it. Majors might bump up some things here and there, but it's a great way for us to engage with the local golf community.
What about yourself? So you are, were you originally from here, or where are you originally from?
No, I'm from Western New York originally.
Western New York?
Yeah.
When did you come down to the DC area?
I went to school in Richmond and then came back up. My now ex-wife, she lived up in here after we graduated from school. So I worked up here. I'd worked for Nike in Bridgestone on the side as a tech rep, and so I was always up here on the weekends visiting her. And then I took the job here at Golfdom. I'd been working in Richmond for about 2 years after school, and then I got out of that field and moved up here. And through my Nike and Bridgestone contacts, it made sense.
Got it.
And it's been very good. It's a great area. It's a great area to be a golf retailer. We obviously have a wonderful location. But I miss Richmond, and I don't really necessarily miss Western New York, but I do miss Richmond. It was a good spot, and I go down there with some frequency and kind of play some down there.
Do you get an opportunity to play much golf yourself?
Not really. I don't play a ton. I'm one of those guys who could play every day if given the opportunity. I love it. But running a golf store during COVID has been.
It's become pretty clear to me throughout these series of interviews for this podcast that the people that play golf every day are not in the golf industry.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. If you play a lot, you're not in the golf world, and that's probably a very true statement.
Right. Do you have a home course though?
Yeah, I play out of Evergreen out in Haymarket.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've only been out there once, but it's a great club.
Yeah, it's a good reprieve, and it gives me some time. And I like I said, I don't play much, but I try to enjoy it, which is difficult. If you don't play much and you're not playing well, you don't enjoy it very much.
Yeah. I know that feeling very well. Well, this has been great. And do we miss anything that we need to cover here?
I mean, no, nothing that I can think of. Just we appreciate you're having some interest in us, and I think there's some really great things to come. So, kind of keep an eye on it.
Yeah, no, I think it's important. I know that it's not the most public information, the merger or the acquisition, but being able to kind of explain the reasons behind it and what to expect or not to expect, to make sure that people aren't making their own opinions about it.
I mean, it's our hope that the consumer understands that nothing's really going to change here. It's been, and we've seen that. At first, everyone was a little skeptical, right? But the ownership group has been great, and knowing them for as long as we have. I mean, Buddy's known the ownership group, the CEO for 15, 20 years, and he's been a mainstay in the golf industry for a very long time. And he's a wonderful guy. And everybody that I've interacted with at Worldwide has been top notch, and it's cool. It's neat. It's nice to have a little bit of security. That fight was tough. It was tough on everybody. The fight for being this fiercely independent kind of us against the world mentality for so long was
Were there any times pre-COVID when this kind of boom came back to golf where things got pretty tenuous because this business was getting so tough and we were losing golfers? And
well, it was the recession and things like that were difficult. I remember not having much product in here, and it's a big store, so when you start to not have much product because manufacturers have cascaded everything and brought drivers down to $199, and it was difficult to keep up and all this other kind of stuff, it was difficult for a while, and as we started to see, 17 was a great year, 18 was a great year, 19 was good, 20 turned out to be great, even though it started off kind of scary. 21 was a great year. Like, we've had several really good years, and that's been exciting.
I've got a really random question for you, and I have a buddy who asked me this question the other day, and the face of it was like, I thought he was crazy, but I thought about it some more, and I was like, I wonder if that could have any real impact. And it's related to everything that's going on with Live Golf. And his question was, do you think that what's happening with the PGA Tour losing so many players to live tour, and it diluting the product, where all of a sudden everything becomes less interesting because you've basically got these potentially two mediocre products instead of one really awesome one, that it could actually impact the whole kind of golf industry as a whole.
Oh, that's out there for sure. I think
not something I had thought about. What do you propose?
It's a good question, and so far, and we had a little bit of this conversation out in California last week. LIV's been good for our business.
Really,
it's brought interest to the game, and I don't know that I could say it directly, but people are hearing the word golf a lot. Right. In mainstream media, and anytime that's out there, it's good for business.
So it's actually being carried by it's an actual news story outside of golf.
Exactly, it's an actual news story, and we're seeing more and more departures from the PGA Tour, going to the LIV Tour, and I don't suspect that's going to change anytime soon. I think we're going to see more and more of these folks doing that, and as that tour starts to gain more traction, which it will, just given the fact that they're going to get more big name players. It may dilute the brand to the point where we see some of that. I don't know, or the game, not the brand, but it may dilute the game. I don't know. I don't even know my particular feelings on LIV at this point. I think, and I've said it before, if this weren't a Saudi-backed situation and instead were an Australian-backed, it was just Australian money, would people feel the same way? Right. And I like to think that it wouldn't bother people quite so much. The political situation has created a lot of these opinions.
Yeah. I think there's so many different layers to it, but the fact that in golf these players can still play the majors for now, assuming that doesn't change, then the whole thing's more palatable. Yeah, but one of the things I have in my own little beer conversations with my buddies about it is if another country said, "Wow, this model works," and they do it to the NFL or Major League Baseball or the NBA, and then all of a sudden you've got my concern is the diluted product more than anything else. Yes, all of a sudden it becomes the USFL in Russia or something.
Exactly. Or that is out there, and I think that's a legitimate fear. And it certainly, if money is the motivator, and largely is, then it's out there. Yeah.
Well, we won't go too deep into the LIV stuff here. That's not the purpose of this conversation. But this has been fantastic. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat some more, and I appreciate I encourage everybody to come out if you haven't been out to Golfdom recently. Come out. Store's fantastic. I'm a loyal shopper, and will continue to be so.
Well, we appreciate your business, and thanks for coming by today. If you ever want to talk old 90s golf clubs, you let me know. I've got a place you can take a look. So.
I want to come check that out. It's been great. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Alex.
Appreciate it. See ya.
I don't have a good golf game, but I don't really care. I'm a regular dude living in DC, and I want to know about DC-centric golf stuff. If you can tell me something that I don't already know, then that is great for me. I don't want the regular stuff. I want exciting stuff. I want different stuff. I want stuff I can't hear elsewhere. But I want it to be about DC golf.